And welcome back to another episode of Inboxing. Today's guest is a very interesting guest, and I discovered her on Twitter because she made a page about how to build a Google Data Studio report for email marketing. So that was very helpful, and I'm glad I found her because she's hilarious, and we'll have a great time filming this, I'm sure. So please welcome Salam.
Hey, how you
Hey,
doing?
all right, thank God, thank God. Yeah, I got stuck there, because it says Naj, right? But it's really Najma, right?
Yeah, it's Najmah, but I always say to people, just call me Naj, because like the only people who call me Naj are the people who tell me I'm in trouble, and my parents.
Well, what does it mean? I mean, like for people, obviously, most Westerners don't know the name Najma, and like, so what is the name Najma anyway?
Oh, so it's Arabic and it means star.
Star.
And
Okay.
yeah, so my sisters are Dura and Wida, who are Jewel and Rose, respectively, as well. So yeah, my dad got that all planned out.
That's popular, like in our families, there are like bodies of water or different
Hmm.
mountains or,
Yeah.
yeah. So, all right, cool. Thanks for informing us all. All right, well, let's jump in. Um, yeah, so tell us about who are you? Where did you come from? And then how did you end up? What's the journey to this moment?
Oh
Go.
my gosh, yes. So I am the current head of marketing over at Filtered. Um, but in terms of who I am, I'm a little bit of this, a little bit of that. What I mean is, like, I started my career off in design. I've been in marketing for over a decade now, but I've been really lucky in that I've been able to hop from industry to industry. And how I got to this moment is about 8 years ago. I was working for but the first job I had in the UK, which was an online gift company, and part of that, my responsibilities on that job was sending out a weekly email, and I was hooked. I loved it. I love being able to send email and then like be able to see like the revenue come back and then tweet this here, do that there, and like ever since then I've just been in love with email. So yeah, so that's how I got here, I guess, talking about email marketing. But yeah, I'd love to delve into any of that. Oh, you're on mute.
I called it. All right, yeah. So thanks for that answer. And yeah, you started it as like a YouTube star in a sense. I mean, like no other email geek for sure has two videos with over 100,000 views on YouTube. So tell us, like, how did that start? Where did that take you? And then did that
Yeah.
have anything to do with where we are now?
Yeah, well, surprisingly, it kind of does actually. So I have a YouTube channel where I'm a self-taught ukulele player and I sing, and I made these videos of covers that I would make, and yeah, they got featured. Like a few of my videos got featured somewhere, something like Boing Boing or something, and people just got to know them, like viral nature of things. I have no idea how that happened, but it's surprising because that's become such a big part of my life. Like, as you know, I performed some bits and pieces for Inbox Expo, so I've done some ukulele covers for conferences, just because. But I think like music is a big part of my life. Like, I generally just like, it helps me zone out. It helps me just kind of get out of my head a little bit. Um, and honestly, like, a ukulele is a very portable instrument. So if you want to like, have an icebreaker, just bring a ukulele with you everywhere.
And that's it. You just started ukulele and then just like decided to jump on YouTube and play a song. And that was like how that happened.
Yeah, it was like it was just the sort of random nature of YouTube back in the day. I think this was like, ages and ages ago, but I feel like back then the monetization of YouTube hadn't really happened. So I feel like that there was a lot of really strange, interesting, random content at the time. And yeah, I believe it was my cover of Poker Face by Lady Gaga. So if you ever wanted to hear a ukulele cover of that, yeah, it's up there. But yeah, that's pretty much in terms of like what that felt like. People actually know me from different places, because I've been chronically online for like I don't know how long, but some people know me through my YouTube videos, and then they're like, "Wait, you're like, you have like a real job as like a marketer," and I'm like, "Yeah." What? And then sometimes people will find out, will get to know me through like one of my public speaking spots, or or what have you, and they're like, "Wait, you play like ukulele videos? That's really random." So it's like those two worlds sometimes coincide.
Right. I mean, that was so shocking. I think, Inbox Expo. I mean, that's also, yeah, where like, what the hell is going on over there? There's someone playing ukulele and singing. It's like, surprise, Email Geeks Got Talent.
Well, hopefully I got like, the good buzzer.
Right. That was so what in the box, you know what I mean? Oh gosh. Oh, are we still live? Oh, you see the lights keep going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, as I mentioned, it's raining here. Yeah, so I hope we don't lose power, because it'll take a little while to come back. But
oh my goodness.
Yeah, just talk to the walls until I get back.
Maybe I can whip up my ukulele and do some covers in the meantime.
Right, just pull out your ukulele.
Yeah. When in doubt, pull out the ukulele.
All right, awesome. Do you still create content like for YouTube? Or are you still like, you manage, like, is it something you're conscious of, that like you want to put up a video every once in a bit?
Yeah, I do. So like I try, so obviously nowhere near as nowhere near as much as I used to, but I'm like trying to do a few every once in a while, but I try to like put more time into them. So there's more editing. I don't know, like one of the most recent videos I've done, like I appear like randomly in like a unicorn like onesie, like in the background or something, and like try to layer all the instruments. I have like a collection of like classroom instruments, so I have like stylophone, and I have like a little mini glockenspiel and stuff, and I try to play all of those instruments and layer it all together. So yeah, it is definitely something I do. Also because so my dad bought me the ukulele way back when, so I mainly made videos because I was in Australia at the time. My family's all in Singapore, and I was making those videos so that I could like send it to them and they'd just like be able to enjoy it.
That's hilarious. It's sort of like the way Khan Academy was like making videos for his nephews, like to teach them math, and then like he got like 1 million views. He's like, oh.
Oh, apparently, yeah, more people actually like this. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I think that's why, like, if you look at some of the older videos, they're just so random. They're just me in my bedroom alone. It's just for my family and friends to laugh at. But yeah.
Right. It's cool stuff. All right. So turning to the inbox. So what are the kinds of emails that you find, or what are the things that you find upsetting in your inbox?
Oh man, so one of the things that they don't tell you about kind of going up the ladder is that you tend to get more spammy emails. When I say spammy, I mean, like cold emails from people, and I get it. It's part of the ecosystem now. But one of the most upsetting things is like when it's not personalized in any way. There's obviously no effort made to even relate your solution to a problem that you think I might have. And I get it. Sometimes the research can only take you so far. But even then it's like, oh, let me take a guess. It's not even that. I think like I got a cold email the other day where it's just like, it looks like you're doing some good marketing over at Filtered. I was like, what? It's kind of like, yeah, I mean, it's a bit like, I bet you say that to all the girls. But it's just there's the lack of research and personalization, I think. But I get it. I feel like some SDRs might have to meet quotas, and I think sometimes there's a batch and blast kind of tactic that people have to make. But I think the fault is entirely with the strategy there, because I think especially in the B2B space, it really is about those personal relationships and trying to open doors to conversations. The other thing I find upsetting in my inbox is like brands I really love, and their emails are just like not at the level of the brand. And so I'm not gonna call out names, but it's something like, like all image, very inaccessible emails, for example. Or it's even like things like, oh, your call to action isn't like clear enough for people to want to click through. And these are brands I'm like really rooting for. Like I want them to like stay alive and be there for the long run. And so, yeah, those are maybe like the two things.
Right. It's interesting you call that accessibility. Just because, like, I feel like we're having a conversation with ourselves about accessibility. Yeah, like there's so many emails going out that are just pure images.
Yeah.
And I don't know who to blame, but like, I mean, like I worked for a big American company, like top 50. And they were like annoyed with me because I wasn't like using their right. I wanted live text and I wanted, like, but doesn't match, and I'm sure like other people would be like, like, no, we just use an image. Like it has to be an image because we need that font. And I was like,
no.
Right. And then the other way, like you have all these like e-com agencies that are just trying to serve as many brands as possible. And they're just, said design to email. Like there's no like, transfer of it. It's like there's a design, it goes to email. It gets chopped
That's
into
really
images
surprising.
and it goes to email. Yeah.
It's so surprising when that happens because it's like it can be the same font, but no one's going to be able to read it. It's really, and also it's like a lot of times when people design with all image emails, they're designing on their desktop. And so what happens is the font gets shrunk down massively on a mobile. And so, like non-mobile friendly emails as well, it's like, it's 2023. Like, I feel like everyone is, like always on their mobile now. So it doesn't make any sense why you wouldn't have a mobile first design. I think there's very few companies that can really get away with not having a mobile first design, like if their solution is strictly like desktop only for whatever reason or something like that. But even so, I think, if you're trying to nurture people or inform them about your solution or your product, you want to start mobile first, right?
For sure. I mean, it's unbelievable. Yeah, like also what you're saying, like how like there are brands that are just using the same templates they used in like 2007. Like because it's working. But like it's not working. I keep on thing. It's I should talk to them. Anyway.
Let's reach out to them together.
All right, so let's celebrate the wins. Tell us about your biggest wins. You've been doing email, you didn't go through it yourself, but I could say you worked in the e-com. Well, you mentioned the gifting company.
Yes.
That's where it all started. And then you worked for a nonprofit for 3 years.
Yeah.
A big nonprofit in the UK.
Yeah.
And now you're doing B2B. So maybe you can take a little bit of like your biggest moments from each of those experiences.
Yeah, sure. So absolutely. There's like a different win for each role, I feel like. So the first time that I fell in love with email was at the personalized gifting company called The Letter Room. And I think the biggest win was being able to send an email at that first time. I get around Black Friday, getting that juicy revenue in, And I feel like it like changed my brain chemistry for some reason. I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, probably. But so that's maybe like my first win, like the first Black Friday we had, and like sending a really effective email and seeing us like reap those rewards basically. The company that I worked at after that was an archaeological travel company, and my biggest win from that was that I forgot the span of time, but we pretty much brought in like something crazy like £500,000 worth of revenue through email that we could attribute to email, and that just showed like how effective email was for us as a company, and it so the clientele for that company was older generations, because it was quite a luxury travel, and who has the money to do that. And so I think there was a lot of trepidation around, well, people like direct mail when they're older, or people, there were a lot of assumptions like people want to do it through print, but actually email was working really well because people were able to get sold in on the storytelling and the imagery and all of that. So I think that was also the first time where I really understood like where assumptions are really not the way to go in marketing. You really need to let the data speak for itself. You just need to try and iterate. After that was the nonprofit. So I worked for Help for Heroes. I think one of the biggest wins was redesigning the template so that the donate button was in the top bit of the email, and that brought in loads of donations. Just that tiny little tweak, and that was a big win for me. That really showed me the power of optimizing and iterating your email templates. I remember presenting at a conference one time, and somebody was just like, don't you care that nobody like scrolled through to the rest of your email? You'd worked so hard on the email for people to like not scroll through and just click on the top to click donate. And I'm like, I don't care, because if people are donating, I'm doing my job. You could make the prettiest, most gorgeous email, and if you're not getting any donations, then what's the point of view?
Right.
Yeah.
Not if you're not doing a good job, like,
Yeah.
Showing the value of your organization, no one's going to click that button anyway. So clearly you've done right things to get that button clicked.
Yeah, exactly. That was a big win for me. And actually you can see, so I think probably like one of the biggest wins is every time I'm able to like submit an email and it gets shown on really good emails. That's a big win for me. I think lots of email teams can like resonate with that. But yeah, I think I would say those are like my big email wins. Most recently, I've seen a lot of success. So I'm in B2B now. And before we were sending out, it's really easy to get straight into marketing mode, especially when you've been in it for a while. Your brain just goes into autopilot sometimes. And I was just like, all right, so we'll do a corporate newsletter. We'll send something out weekly. And it just wasn't landing. And we changed format. So the emails were coming out from me, like with my name and my headshot at the bottom. And, it was like in my tone and my language, and it was very, like casual. And we've seen a lot of success with that. The click-throughs are a lot better. Hardly any unsubscribe. So I think, again, I feel like another lesson from that is that don't take for granted that B2B is all about boring corporate. I think people want to hear from other people.
Right. No, it's funny when people like ask, okay, I've done B2B. No, but I've done human to human. Like,
yeah, I love that. That's such a great way of putting it. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So yeah, like with all your experience in marketing and email, what are the top 5 lessons that you've learned?
Where to begin? I feel like I learn something new every day as well. So yeah, I think assumptions, throw them out the window. Whatever you assume, just they don't exist. Forget them, because things have changed so quickly. Even within the last 6 months of AI, just kind of like showing up in the consciousness of everyone. So as a marketer, no matter how experienced you are, you don't know anything. That's how I approach every day. I just assume that I don't know anything, and I'm going to, like start fresh. Do a little bit of social learning because other people have tread that same path. Secondly, I think that what we were saying, B2B is actually a much more intimate type of marketing than any other industry or sector that I've been in before. It really is about talking person to person, developing those relationships, saying things like, I wouldn't be having this conversation with you unless I really thought I could help you. Otherwise, no sweat. Like, it's just saying that kind of thing. It's about a mutual relationship. Whereas like, in the e-commerce space, it really is like, hey, there's a promotion. We think you like it, and obviously there's way more to it than that, but it's much less personal than what you need to do in B2B.
Right. Now it could be, it depends on the niche, I think, like particularly in your niche, which is like a new niche, where it's just something to do with education and development, and
Yeah, learning and development. Especially that. I think another lesson I would say is I think it's really easy to hop on top of trends, but as I've gone along in my career, I'm actually going back to like the core basics, foundations of things because there's nothing new under the sun really. So recently I picked up a book about rhetoric, the art of rhetoric. It's an amazing book. It's called The Elements of Eloquence. And I was reading it and I was like, this is just literally everything we talk about in copywriting, and the ancient Greeks figured this out like millennia ago. What is everyone doing? So I think it's really important that yes, micro learning in the flow of work, picking up really useful tips from other people on LinkedIn or podcasts, what have you, is really important. But I think it's beneficial for marketers especially to go back to the basics, brush up on your foundation, brush up on your core, especially if you're a self-taught marketer as well. Recently, I read this because I've been trying to improve my copywriting, my writing skills. I picked up Ogilvy on marketing because I read it ages ago, but I just picked it up recently. And like just a lot of the stuff that he writes about in there is stuff that still applies today.
Right, like everything's the same. Like they're really, yeah. You look at the marketing examples. What's new is like a new way to get a lead, or now social platforms, but in terms of the way we write and things that we could offer, it's more or less the same.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. We're all in the business of educating and persuading, and if you can do those things well, then you're going to be pretty good no matter what channel or medium you're in. Right. The other lesson, and one thing that's served me really well, is my design experience. So I said I started off my career in design, so I did a lot of graphic design freelance, and I did packaging design at the beginning of my career. So I designed packaging for makeup products and things like that. But that comes up surprisingly a lot in marketing, and actually it's so useful if you can create your own collaterals as a marketer. So one thing I would say to any marketers is like have at least enough design experience so that you can kind of get what you're imagining in your head onto something tangible. Because it's so hard. Speaking as a designer on the other side of the table, it's really hard for people to just tell me what they're thinking about if they don't know how to visualize it themselves. And so I think that would seriously streamline people's workflows if they can at least learn a little bit of design to, kind of help them along in the process along.
For sure. And also just like when you're stuck, like being someone in the it's not like you have to like call the designer, but it's late at night. Like you could just go into Photoshop and make the little change or whatever. Like that's a tremendous lesson. Yeah, no, for sure. Because it's come up. I mean, like one of the organizations I was working with recently, the marketing director was a designer. Turned marketing director. But when I needed some collateral for emails, like, okay, can you fix?
You can turn it around in a snap. It's so much easier for everyone, especially you. And I'm a big fan of making things easy for myself. I've worked in very small marketing teams, even one person marketing team, right? And you kind of have to learn how to do everything yourself. And like thinking back on my career, I think the ability to design has seriously helped me and my workflow. Probably the last lesson I would say is automation has been a huge part of my marketing and email marketing life now. And again, I feel like that is the thing that people really need to try and get comfortable with in order to help themselves along in the same way that design does. So you kind of got tweaked onto me through my Google Data Studio dashboards tutorial, and that came out of being seriously under-resourced. A lot of the ESP I was working with at the time just wasn't giving me the right amount of data. And so the problem there is I don't have enough time to be able to pull the data and do a good enough analysis of it because I'm spending all my time pulling the data. And so creating Google Data Studio dashboard meant that I didn't have to spend all that time pulling the data. Because what I was doing was like, I don't know if you've done this before, but like, you know, when you take screenshots of the tables and then you have to like put them into a PowerPoint, and then you have to write your silly little like thing like, here's the delta, and here's what we should stop doing, start doing. And actually, if you do it in the dashboard, you can jump on a conversation with a stakeholder and you guys can just talk through it all together, you know. So learning how to solve problems with automation is really key for any marketer. And I don't mean that in terms of like just you know, like let's say you're using a CRM like HubSpot. Of course, you need to learn how to automate, but I'm thinking about like your general workflow in life. Like, how can you make things so much easier for yourself? Things like that, like using Google Data Studio, now Looker Studio, to make that part of your life a lot easier and faster.
Right. And I'd love to know, you know, what, yeah, my own flows and other things. Like, yeah, where can I, you know, make those kind of improvements? Because it was a huge help, that thing.
Oh, glad.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right. On the flip side of this is like, what are the mistakes that you keep seeing, especially from smaller teams or even big teams?
Yeah. Focus and clarity is so important, and actually does. So I don't kind of say resolutions to myself at the beginning of the year. What I tend to have is like keywords, and yeah, one of the keywords for me was clarity, and I think this is something that marketing teams really need to have. So I'm sure you've seen these memes where like, oh, are you even a marketer if like people don't tell you like how to do marketing like every 5 seconds or something like that. But it's true, everyone has well-intentioned advice about how to do marketing. And I think the thing that marketing teams need to do is to just kind of take that on board and say, and do a healthy no. We're gonna do it our way. I think clarity is part of that, of clarity of vision, clarity of how you're going to execute. And I think that's a big mistake that, you know, even I have been guilty of, is trying to do too much. Spreading yourself too thin. It's like, do you really need to be on 4 or 5 different social media channels? You know, when you can do one really, really well, and then add on another one if you really need to, once you've kind of nailed the formula for that. I think secondly, another mistake is not working in a modular way. So I wrote about this a few days ago on LinkedIn, but so the point I made in my LinkedIn post was people can, so when you have modular furniture, right, the function of the furniture is still there, no matter how you change it around. Let's say you have, you've moved from a bigger place to a slightly smaller place and you have a modular sofa, and it's really awkward, but it's great because you can move it around. So it still works as a sofa. I feel like people need to apply this concept to the way they work. And so some examples are when I can see when people are writing from scratch every single time or creating from scratch every single time. And actually what you really need is a design system or a system of some kind, a modular system. So say, for example, in email templates, I have what I call my everything bagel template, which is I have modules for like every possible use I might have. And then I just copy and paste that template, right? And I just take out whatever or duplicate whatever. And that's already much easier. But something I've seen like, you know, maybe junior marketers do is that they try and create from scratch every single time. And it's exhausting. And you don't have consistency that way as well, because you're going to want to do it slightly differently each time. Whereas in a modular system, you can just shuffle things around and create to templates. So working in a modular way. Another mistake, I think we've touched on this a little bit earlier, is making assumptions, right, about your customer, your audience. I kind of fell a little bit into that trap last year, and we had a few flops. And so I read up on some books. I read some books about positioning. I read some books about, you know, in tech, like in the really famous ones like Crossing the Chasm, all of that stuff. And I really tried to like dig into like what were the worries, what were the pains that our product were trying to address. And by doing that work, like trying to really get into the head of our audience, we were able to kind of create marketing and messaging that just landed so much more authentically because we were actually speaking our audience's language. And I feel like that's something where I see a lot of brands kind of falling flat. Like they have no idea what their audience is interested in or what they're worried about. And I'm not saying this like just for B2B. I've even seen it for like, so I'm a big gamer. I've even seen it sometimes on like, like I'll see some media or I'll watch something and I'd be like, oh, you clearly have no idea about the lingo that the community uses or, or like the memes people use. Yeah.
Yeah, that there's such a disconnect between what the company provides and the way people are talking about it and what they think they're doing and what people are actually using it for. And then there are great examples of this. I mean, the one that comes to mind right away is the milk in America, at least. For years, they're doing this campaign, drink milk, it does body good, all this kind of stuff. No one was drinking more milk. But then they did this research, apparently, and found the biggest thing with milk is that people are afraid of not having it.
Oh,
that the biggest pain point is not having it. So then they started this whole campaign, Got Milk, and it became huge, viral, and it was all about that pain point. That what are you gonna do if you don't have milk? So then people were buying more milk apparently, and they got, like they never dreamed it would go that far, but they really they hit a home run, and it's perfectly on that point. Is that it was all about the customer. How did they think about that product? Like, I'm not going to buy more milk because I think you're trying to convince me that it's so good for me.
Yeah, but I didn't have it to begin with. It's really, I love stuff like that. I think I went to a conference a while back. I think possibly it was Ichigo. I forget his name, but if you're watching this and I'm talking about you, I'm so sorry. But he was talking about a welcome campaign or onboarding campaign they built for HelloFresh. And it was well-intentioned, and it was something about what recipes do you want to see more of? It's like so you can kind of like click which recipes you want. But it was a flop. That onboarding process was a flop because people were saying they wanted to see healthy recipes, but the actual recipes they wanted to see were the sinful kind of, the super like luxurious, like chocolatey stuff and the cheesy stuff, But like, on what, people are like, I want to see the healthy recipes. And that's about like understanding what people say versus what they actually want. I love things like that because people are complicated. And I think like throwing those assumptions out the window is really important, like trying to get in their head. I think if you can do this by like, and actually it segues beautifully into another lesson I would say, which is get out of marketing. Not all of the answers are in marketing. Being a good marketer is about being able to be in the position of your audience and trying to understand what pains you're trying to address, how you can surprise and delight them. The only way you can do that is by like living your whole life outside of marketing. And that also means getting out of like the marketing team. So like make a concerted effort to talk to different teammates, so you can talk to customer success because they're going to be talking with your customer like every day. They're going to have a much better understanding of your customers than you are. I think things like that is really important for marketing to do.
Yeah, now it's a great point. Just get out of marketing, talk to customer service, find out what the most common issues are, and talk about them, and address them. That's huge. All right. What do you struggle with the most in your current role?
So I think like on a personal level, and I don't know if you feel this as well, but with things moving so fast, I have like this individual anxiety about like, I don't know everything. I'm so scared I'm gonna get left behind. I don't know anything. But there's like, that's kind of like, I feel like a tension that every marketer kind of has to do in this role, this function in the industry. But for me, on like a sort of a work level, I think it's about just being able to do all the cool ideas that I want to do. and having not enough time to do them. So having to really like focus, right? That was, like I said, that was one of my keywords for 2023: clarity, and focus. Because it's really about like what's going to drive the most impact. Because you can have all the cool ideas you want all day long, but if none of them drive impact, you might as well not have done anything. You might as well not have turned up for work. And so I think for me, the thing I struggle with is like trying to really understand like what is going to drive the most impact for Filter, but the audience, for our customers today.
Right, for sure. Yeah, no, that feeling's mutual.
Yeah. Again, it's not just me then.
Yeah, it's a good thing you will never die. Yeah, because we're not young anymore. All right, hey, moving on. All right. So what brands do you love and you feel like they're just doing such a great job?
So I love, so I feel like this company is always brought up when it comes to like their copywriting and their social media, but Innocent, the juice brand, they totally kill it when it comes to their copy, and it bleeds into everything they do. So you might pick up one of the juices and you might see like some funny little copy, and it just makes me giggle. Like, it's so on point. Because I feel like that's the mistake that a lot of brands make, is that your branding should go into every single detail of your products, everywhere you are. And Innocent really understand this. So whether it's their social media, whether it's like the actual, copy and the packaging, they really nail it. So I love Innocent for that reason. I think, so like I said, I'm a gamer, and I feel like some gaming brands are like really nailing it with the experience. And so I play Fallout 76, and I love, because like I've been doing a lot of copywriting, so it's like that kind of frequency bias, right? Like you start like honing in on like copywriting like everywhere, you just can't escape it. And I've been noticing like all of like the copy and stuff that they've been including in their like online platform and stuff. Like I love that. I think people in other industries should watch the video game industry for lessons in marketing, because they understand engagement. It's part of what they do. They have an economy of attention that other brands don't really, other industry sectors haven't really thought that much about. But I think most recently, something I saw, which I thought was really cool, was Netflix promoting the Wednesday series. And they were, doing the out of home experience stuff. That was really cool as well. I felt like they really nailed it with that.
I gotta stop you for a second.
Yeah, sure.
I just have to take a pause.
Okay.
For a minute. I'm giving you the floor. I'll be right.
Okay, cool. Oh no, my ukulele's too far away for me to like grab it. Wait, let me see if I can pull something up.
Okay. All right, I'm back.
Hey, dude.
Sorry about that. It's drinking way too much tea, apparently. All right. So you mentioned innocence and you mentioned gamers. Was there another one?
Yeah, Netflix. So
Yeah,
Netflix and the out of
okay.
home stuff was really, really, really cool. So yeah, I feel like yeah, in terms of like consistently nailing it, that company Liquid Death has been doing some really cool stuff, and I love that kind of thing of like that juxtaposition of something like water, but it's
Right,
promoted in a completely different way.
They are awesome. Like,
Yeah.
really geniuses. Like, to
Yeah.
take a product. I mean, do you ever like hear about his whole brand story? Like, how he came up with this whole idea? Like,
Yes, a little bit, but I'm fascinated, and I love that yeah, again, like I love that juxtaposition of unexpected things, right?
right. I just wonder like how we could apply it to other industries. Like, what
Yes,
else?
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Like, okay, so like for example, like sanitary products like pads and tampons, like it's always promoted with like flowers and women looking slightly disgruntled or something, right? But I would just love if someone would just like make a like a really like kick-ass brand, because it is hardcore.
Right. It's a little bit surprising, honestly.
Yeah.
Because they're all so similar. Like, there's
Yeah.
there's no differentiating. It's just like branding, but like, I mean, I don't want to start naming names, but like they're all kind of there's no differentiator. So if you want to start your own brand,
the same. Sign up with me, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can do like the kind of like hardcore metal kind of version of like sanitary products. Yeah, I'd love that.
There you go. All right, it started here, guys. All right. Yeah, and it's like AI. I mean, like we're already like using AI.
Yeah.
It's here. And it feels like the dawn of the internet, or something is coming.
I know.
And it's here.
The monolith
sort of.
is there, and we're all like going like
right,
losing our minds.
Like, yeah, exactly. We're losing our minds 100%.
So how do I think it's going to impact the marketing world?
Yeah.
So the company I work for, Filtered, our tagline is "Take control of content chaos." The reason why that is because in L&D has this problem where lots of enterprise level organizations, and even below that, they tend to have a tendency of buying a lot of learning content for their organization, for the people to be able to learn, which is very well intentioned, really good stuff. But the problem is that when you have hundreds and thousands, maybe millions of learning assets, it is chaotic. Nobody can find what they're looking for. Like, let's say you're looking for learning assets about leadership. It's actually really normal to come up with like 4,000 different learning titles. And how can you pick with any? You just kind of be like, oh, I don't know, I'll just pick like the first two, whatever. It's like the Google problem, right? And so that's what we call content chaos, because what happens in enterprise level organizations is that learners can't find what they're looking for. They start losing interest. They're like, I'll just find it on Google or YouTube, and the problem is it's a lot of wastage, there's a lot of resources, there's a lot of learning assets just sort of sitting like undiscovered. And so that's what content chaos means. I think AI is going to contribute, or is already contributing, to content chaos in a general sense of content, like marketing content out there, because now people have figured out that you can just like put a prompt in and like content will come out the other side. Now I know a lot of people are using this responsibly, I hope, but but I feel that a lot of people who aren't being trained, or maybe didn't already have the experience in creating content, from scratch, are probably going to use it without too much of a scrutinizing eye. And so I think what's going to happen is that quality may potentially be lower for a lot of content that we're going to see, like especially with people getting excited about like using ChatGPT, pre-priced tier, and all of these other solutions. But I also think that people are going to get savvier with the content that they're getting as well, because I feel like we're going to start developing a sense of, I think this was written by AI, or this seems like it was written by a person, like a real person. It's actually one of the reasons why I push for this newsletter format for my company, where I write the weekly newsletter from me, because it's got all of my little quirks of how I write. It's not grammatically perfect,
Yeah, but it's your personality. It's coming across.
Yeah. And my standard for copywriting, content writing is like, if an AI could, like, if it looks like an AI could write it, why bother?
Right. I think maybe you're touching on like a point, which I think is, more and more we'll try to sound more human.
Yeah.
And the AI just can't compete with that, because we're quirky and weird.
We're quirky and weird, exactly. And like, what I think about is when cameras came into the picture, and a lot of painters were obviously very worried, but I think what then happened was that you had this whole advent of like artistic movements that were different, that were purposely impressionistic, they were purposely not trying to be realistic. And I think we can kind of see this thing happening with AI. If AI can mimic, whatever mediocre writing there was, then I think people are going to try and do interesting, outrageous, like thought-provoking stuff.
Right, like more adventurous. And that'd be a good thing, because we're used to brand AI content. I think, like the content a lot of brands write is not very human sounding.
Yeah, anyway. I mean, snooze, I've been guilty of that before. So I'm not saying that as like, standing on my pedestal and being like, you all should do this. No, I've been in that rut before, and I've seen that, like, actually when you like talk human to human, really good things happen. And so that's why I've also recently been trying to push to speak to more people in the L&D industry, because I appreciate that I don't have that domain knowledge, and I want to speak to real people about their real experiences.
When you say, sorry, just for the audience, like L&D is learning and development?
Yeah, learning and development, that's right. So those are our target customer, learning and development professionals in enterprise level organizations. So so it's, like, I wouldn't presume to know anything about what they do. Just in the same way that, like, it gets a bit annoying when people give you like marketing advice and they're non-marketers, so I have to put myself in their position. And that's why I want to speak to real L&D people, ask them like what's going on, like what did they experience day to day. AI can't do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, and that's, like, you want to know what they're, you have that real relationship. It's all about creating that real relationship.
Yeah.
And an AI bot hopefully can't do that for a while.
Yeah, for a while. But
right, you think you got this great person, turns out they're not even a person at all, just a computer.
What I think it is interesting though is that I think it will enable people who have been a bit there are barriers to creating stuff that we kind of take for granted. People are like, people don't care about what I have to say, or like, I don't have the writing ability, blah blah blah. I hope that AI enables people to create really great stuff who may have found those barriers before. It's like all of my favorite YouTube creators now, they, like, before YouTube, what would they have been? I would never have been able to know about them, never been able to see them ever.
Right, for sure. Yeah. All right, we're ready to wrap up. So just final thoughts. And you can go as long as you want. Yanatori went for an hour, so that's the bar.
Any final? Well, I'd love to get your opinion on the stuff I'm probably going to ramble about, but on the AI stuff, I'd love to share how I'm using AI as part of my workflow, and hopefully this is useful for anybody watching.
Sure.
But for me, I think the thing a lot of people struggle with when they dipping their toes into email, and even some of us who are more experienced, is writing subject lines and hooks. And how I'm using AI as part of my workflow is I'll try and write like one or two, like I try and write a few different subject lines, and then I'll feed them to an AI. So I'm using Notion, and Notion has its own like inbuilt AI, and I'll say generate similar subject lines, and like with different, it's like create a more friendly subject line or create a more professional subject line, try it different ways. The reason why is because like I'm trying to get myself out of my own head, because you don't know what you don't know. And sometimes like the AI might come up with something surprising that you can tweak. And so that's one way I'm using it. So yeah, I'd love to know how you're using it as part of your workflow.
Sure. So I'm using it similarly, like meaning I'll think of a subject line, but I can't think of a pre-header that goes with it. So I'll ask for an example, give me 2-3 examples of that. And then it, that gets your head moving, like, I didn't think of it like that. That's kind of a cool hook. And I've used it actually for product pages and, a lot of stuff. I mean, like, God bless Chase Diamond. He gave me all these like prompts, like it's become the new industry is now the prompts.
The prompts.
Like, I was thinking actually of asking, ChatGPT, what are some good prompts I can use with ChatGPT? Like it'll give you some prompts. It's probably how these people are coming up with their stuff.
That's
but
so
the
true.
prompts are, I mean, the first time, I used the prompt and I think it was for a product page or a category, and like I filled it out and like it spit out like really decent content, like it's a product page. It doesn't have to be like gold, like it passes.
It's a good launch pad, isn't it? Because I feel like that's the struggle with like having the blank page in front of you. Your mind goes blank. And so it's more useful to have like something that you can say, oh no, that's no good, because your mind then starts working. It has something to work off.
Right. Like I used it actually last week I write a newsletter every week for one of my brands. And usually I spend like another 20 minutes in Grammarly editing it down. And this week I just took the whole thing as is and I gave it to ChatGPT. I'm like, can you edit this?
Yeah.
And they did, but I'm not sure I loved it.
That's so interesting.
It did a good job, but like it took out a little bit of my brand voice. I mean, like it was very grammatically good. Which is,
but it's just too perfect. It's too perfect.
It was just too perfect, right? Yeah. Just also like even like the slant of it, like it's just not the slant I was going for. So then I had to like edit it, and then it just sounded much more newsy. Where like I'm really just like taking the news and writing about it, and then it just became like the news again.
Which is not what you want. Like exactly. I think that's such a great thing that I've been thinking about as well. We are absolutely like a flood with content, and like what's valuable to people, I think added analysis, your own unique viewpoint. So I have a lot of my teammates that I'm trying to like get them to be more visible at LinkedIn, like bring up the profile, uplift them, like give them more confidence in being visible just in general. And they're always like, I don't know what I have to add. But for me, it's like what you have to add is you. You're the unique thing. You're the unique factor. I want to see things from your eyes, and that's something that AI can't do. AI can't literally be you.
Right. No, you got to talk yourself. Like, and people could tell. I mean, like my wife could tell at least.
Thank God. Can you imagine? She's like, no, this is exactly you're like.
You lose your voice, like you're you. You can create your content, So if you start, outsourcing it to a robot, like you'll sound like a robot, So
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a danger.
It is a danger. I think the other thought I'd love to share is that, and I'm speaking like to like marketers like listening to this, like you guys have no idea like how skilled you are. Just like sharing that skill, just like sharing that expertise. Because one thing I realized working at the nonprofit I was working at, so I just kind of took for granted that all of the experience and knowledge I'd accumulated, and I wasn't even that like senior, I was just a digital marketing executive. And once I started sharing that internally, it was like people looked at me like I was a wizard, and I was just like, no, this is like really obvious like marketing stuff, like anyone can do this. And so that's one thing I want to say to people like marketers, like that's kind of the point that I was saying, like get out of marketing, not just for you but for other people in your organization as well, because like you take for granted what it's like the curse of knowledge. And honestly, I think everyone outside of marketing could do with a little bit of marketing knowledge, because it really is just about persuasive communication. That's what we're doing really at the end of the day, right? It's like rhetoric. And everyone could do with a little bit of that, especially for like people like in learning and development. One of the things that is talked about a lot now is a lack of visibility that L&D professionals have within their organizations. My marketing friends, reach out to your L&D friends, help them be more visible, help other people be more visible in your organization. So yeah, I did, so if you're like kind of umming and ahhing about like, oh, should I share like what I know? Do it, just do it.
All right. That was awesome. All right. Thank you so much. Yeah, I had a lot of fun, obviously. This was great.
No, thank you.
All right. Will you be playing any ukulele at any conferences this coming year?
Yeah, I'm working on a cover now. It's just taking a lot longer because I'm like still like umming and ahhing about like what what things to use for it. But I recently like bought a recorder and I'm trying to make it not sound good, if that makes sense. I think it's funnier when instruments sound bad.
I thought it was so interesting about like your cover, like your covers in general, like they don't, it's your own interpretation. Sort of,
exactly.
Like your
I'm not
poker
trying
face
to
is like,
I'm not a professional musician. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I thought that was like that was like refreshing and like sort of hilarious to people. It's like, oh wow, she's playing poker face on ukulele. Like, this is so like new and weird.
Yeah.
So awesome. All right, looking forward. Hopefully we'll meet somewhere in person, but if not, this way is great too. So thanks for joining me. I'll let you out and say goodbye to the audience. So I'll see you in a minute. All right, that's our show for today. Inboxing is still looking for a sponsor for season 3. So email marketing companies is a great way to get in front of email marketers primarily, and marketers, in general. So reach out. Also, you can go to hilleberg.com/sponsor, and you can learn all about that opportunity. Anyway, have a great day, guys. Oh, wait. Stay. That's the button.